how would I identify if it's just a phase of a child or he's really suffering from mental health issues?
So one of the indications, I think, is the time that these new behaviors are happening. Like, you don't want to wait months and months and months and say it's just a phase, it's just a phase. I mean, maybe moms observe things first, right? Because we're with our kids.
Today, two moms are talking.
Yeah. So the research says that for any relationship that's healthy, to keep being healthy and thriving, you should clock in 150 minutes with that person, quality interaction.
Every day.
Weekly.
And
that doesn't mean, I see families at restaurants, everyone's in their own devices.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I believe one of the biggest reason of anxiety is social media.
That seems to be a common theme. Imagine being in a park, your mind goes to maybe sounds of the birds. Maybe you want to suddenly take off your shoes and feel the grass and you hear the ducks.
I love this.
Wouldn't you rather your mind go to these places than all the things that comes with anxiety? And you're in your room, you have not seen the sun all day, you have not had a human interaction. The same part of our brain that regulates our emotions also is geared towards connection.
Namaste everyone, I am Shilpi and I'm the proud host of Safarnama with Shilpi. Thank you for watching my videos and supporting my channel by sharing with others and subscribing. Your encouragement means the world to me and it motivates me to create the content that truly matters. Mental health is a vital component of overall well-being and it is especially critical during the formative years of childhood. Children face unique challenges and pressures that can significantly impact their mental health, from academic stress to social dynamics and family issues. Understanding these challenges and learning how to support the children is essential for fostering a healthy, happy, and resilient future generation. In this episode, we will discuss the signs and symptoms of mental health issues in children, effective strategies for support and intervention, and the role of parents, education, and healthcare professionals in promoting mental wellness. Today, we are honored to have Mahtab Moradi with us. Mahtab is a licensed therapist with over 22 years of experience in counseling psychology. She serves as the secretary on the board of directors for the Rupani Foundation USA and has made significant contribution to mental health services through her work with Crow Therapy and the Ibn Sina Foundation. Mahtab's extensive background in psychology, counseling, and behavioral management has equipped her with a wealth of knowledge and insights, particularly in the realm of children's mental health. This important topic has been brought to you by India House in collaboration with Hawk Foundation and Asian American Health Coalition. India House Houston is a vibrant, non-profit organization dedicated to uniting culture and enriching the greater Houston community. Through its diverse range of free programs and services, it addresses critical needs such as healthcare, legal aid, education, and wellness. From food distribution and charity clinics to yoga classes and cultural activities, India House fosters inclusivity and provides a welcoming space for people of all backgrounds to connect, learn, and thrive. So please help me welcome our today's guest, Mahtab Moradi. Thank you so much for coming to the Safarnama with Shilpi to discuss such an important topic.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Mahtab, about 1 in 7 children in USA face mental health challenges like anxiety, depression, or behavioral disorder. But according to the report, only half of them receive treatment.
That's actually, I'm surprised the number is that low. I think it may be even higher.
Yeah?
Yeah. And I think with children, we saw a very big uptick after COVID because they lost their sense of structure and being around peers. So we started seeing a lot of increase in anxiety, which oftentimes with kids, anxiety and depression go hand in hand.
I think early intervention is the key, since most of the cases starts at the age of 14. Yeah. So what do we mean when we talk about kids' mental health? And I feel like it's something everyone mentions, but it is not always clear.
So in general, I think a good practice, and especially like speaking from kind of a mom's perspective,
Yeah, of course.
and a professional, is that every parent should have a read on their children's baseline. And what I mean by baseline is their level of interactiveness. How much time do they spend with peers? How much time do they spend with family? Are they an expressive child? Are they an introverted child? What do their daily habits look like? And when there is a major shift in the degree of which these attributes are expressed in any unique child, then you begin to think, okay, what may be happening in this child's world that they're turning completely inward, or they have an internal struggle. So with mental health, you want to be very careful not to generalize and start labeling children, because one thing we all have to respect, that childhood is a very dynamic phase of life. And so you want to be very apprehensive about like labeling someone's child until you have a very good read. You talk to mom, you talk to dad, sometimes a sibling, they know a lot about each other. And it's only a problem when the level of functioning, whether it's social functioning, whether it's cognitive functioning, whether it's a complete shift in.
What are some common signs that kids might be struggling with their mental health? How can I find out as a parent if it's just phase or if my child has mental health issues?
So let's say, your 7-year-old, were they reading and writing at grade level? Now, compared to the prior year.
Means the milestones.
Yes.
That we should always see the milestone if your child is on the.
Exactly. And then your ability to focus.
Okay.
Your ability to complete a task. Your ability to retain information. And being able to, kind of stack these skills, building on these skills. Of course, the basic read we have on every child is their school performance. But sometimes that's also not the best way, because if you are dealing with a child in transition, maybe they speak multiple languages, so you don't want to judge their mental health just on school performance, because that would not be fair to that child. So when we talk about mental health in children, we talk about kind of how they're getting along with the world around them. And are they doing age-appropriate things? Are they enjoying each other, the peers? Are they connecting, creating natural connection with mom, dad, grandparents, and so forth? Even animals, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but they one of the big indicators of whether a child will grow up to become a criminal is aggression towards animal in childhood.
Really?
So, yeah, that's a very quick thing to get help on. You need to be very cued in. If you observe children intentionally bringing harm to an animal, it's very concerning. That requires early intervention for sure. Lack of empathy. Those are some early signs that later on antisocial behaviors are going to be more dominating. And of course, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, please.
You want to measure these things in the context of the child. And I cannot emphasize that enough, because you want to know if a child stops speaking and goes to their room, doesn't want to eat, doesn't want to see anyone, maybe that child just lost a grandparent that they were close to, right? Doesn't mean they have to be diagnosed. And that's why I think working with children and families, first you have to be a good historian, get the context, and then see what is the best fit for that child.
So as you talk about the signs, early signs, so being a parent, like how would I identify if it's just a phase of a child or he's really suffering from mental health issues?
So one of the indications, I think, is the time that these new behaviors are happening. Like you don't want to wait months and months and months and say it's just a phase, it's just a phase. Even, let's say, like when I had my second child, I went through a postpartum anxiety. And I was treated and I got into therapy, and my OB-GYN like prescribed me a low dose of the medication I needed and so forth. If the problem behavior is not going anywhere after 4 to 6 months, it's probably a good idea that we act on it. And oftentimes I think even with parents, we truly want to believe that and kind of falsely promote resiliency, but it's better to intervene if things are not moving in the right direction after about 4 months, rather than just saying it's a phase.
So if I suspect that my child has a mental health issue, what should be the first step I should take?
Get them screened. At our clinics, we offer free screenings for every child. And that's for that very exact reason, because sometimes parents are like, is it that bad? Do I need to go straight to a psychiatrist?
I know.
Or should I get them in counseling? Why not have a professional screen them?
We should reach out to the psychiatrists for this.
Well, we're a community clinic. So we're in a place where we can offer free screenings. So we have every layer of mental health. We have the free screenings. We have education, where it's not therapy quite, but it's education. And then we have counseling and therapy. And we have psychiatry.
So what does this process look like?
So let's say your child has not been his normal self.
Okay.
And it's, maybe moms observe things first, right? Because we're with our kids.
Today, two moms are talking.
And you're like, okay, well, this is not what he normally does, or that particular reaction wasn't what I normally get. So you just kind of make a mental note, and then maybe go to dad, the other adult in the room, and have them take a closer look. Do check-ins with your child. Has something changed at school? That's extremely important, because I think creating a safe space for children to express the struggles that they're living with day in and day out, whether it's bullying, whether it's everyone in our family is brilliant and smart, and I just got a failing grade in my math, so I must be nothing. And then they start kind of going into their own shell. So check-ins are really important. Talking to your kids, looking for different behaviors, looking for sleep changes, appetite, the things that they used to like and now they're saying no to. If they're avoiding certain people, avoidant behavior, these are, lack of eye contact. Sometimes that is a key indicator of ooh, there's something more.
Yeah.
And I can't emphasize enough just how much curiosity and caring has really paid well in both my profession and both as a parent.
Talking about feelings with kids is very challenging. In fact, sometimes kids don't want to talk about feelings. So how can we do in a way that's age appropriate and makes them feel safe and comfortable to share their feelings.
Yeah, that I think emotional expression is something that there's no way to normalize it in one aspect, right?
Because sometimes kids don't want to share,
Yeah,
in
and
fact here, if we talk about in US, so once they go into the middle or high schools, they start like, that's my space.
yeah,
They start speaking like these words, that's my space, you cannot enter. I mean, I heard it
yeah.
with some of the kids. So in that situation, how can parent communicate?
I think for parents, instead of being fixated on kind of extracting feelings out of what they think feelings are, and sometimes people think it's an in-depth conversation about something that bothers you, and that you're supposed to completely disclose every part of your soul to your parent.
Yeah.
And that's not it at all.
Because
it's more connection, right?
it's not about all
Yeah.
the kids, but some kids.
Yeah.
All the kids are, of course, all kids are not same, but in some kids, not in only US. I heard it in different countries also, because on a daily basis, I'm doing these podcasts. So
Yeah.
I'm hearing these kind of cases
Yeah.
that kids start doing once they, go into the high school or middles. So they want their room, their time, their separate everything.
Yeah.
So in that case, it's very hard to be heard. Sometimes it's like be heard.
Yeah. Making space for it is important.
Giving them a space is important.
No, like making a space for
Okay.
that connection.
Okay.
And when you say feeling between, parent and child relationships, for me, it goes straight to the word connection. So normalizing it, expanding your own feeling vocabulary.
Understood. Mm-hmm.
Elaborate on, you don't just feel sad and happy. There's all these things in between, and taking it to the next layer. Like, I feel sad because I felt disappointment in my performance today. I felt like I let your dad down, or I felt like, I don't know, there's a million ways we can feel sad, right? And being able to be outward, and so that your child sees, oh, there's all kinds of sad in this world. And then making one-on-one time with your child. So creating that space to do those check-ins. And maybe for the first 10 rounds, you're doing most of the talking. But eventually your child will catch on that there's a place and time to express myself to someone who loves me, someone who makes me feel safe.
Wonderful advice. That's
Right?
very insightful.
And never take contents out of that conversation, out of that room.
Yeah,
Because then you will lose your child's trust.
absolutely.
So I think that's very helpful for both parents and for children to build the feeling vocabulary. Now, if your child is not even about those, the tea time and conversation, or you, I don't know, taking them to their favorite restaurant and having one-on-ones, then try to create other forms of grounding, such as maybe walks in nature, maybe doing things that are ritualistic, that your child can say, every time my mom kind of could read, I'm struggling, we would go to the park. We would go, do something fun. We'd go see a comedy show, whatever that is. Or we would watch something that we both
We
like.
should do a family time on regular
Yes.
basis. So it should be like a particular duration, like 1 hour, 30 minutes, or 15 minutes. It should be a quality time.
Yeah, so the research says that for any relationship that's healthy, to keep being healthy and thriving, you should clock in 150 minutes with that person, quality interaction,
Every day,
weekly.
weekly.
And that doesn't mean, I see families at restaurants, everyone's in their own devices.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mhm.
And that comes from the research on couples and relationship counseling, like what we, EFT, emotion focused therapy. For 40 plus years, Gottman has done research on what brings connection, what makes people stay connected, what makes people, get disconnected and move apart in a relationship. So a lot of the things that I'm referring to are based on that research, and they came up with the 150 minutes per week. They came out with the 5 to 1 for every one negative interaction you have with someone you love. You should try to balance that out with 4 to 5 positive interactions, and not just give up and say, oh, look, my firstborn just doesn't like me. So, and then make that your mantra. You should never stop trying, because relationships are very dynamic, and our brains are made to learn new things.
Yeah. Mehtab, what about kids in school? Let's say someone is in middle or high school. So, what are some signs parents should keep an eye out for that show a child might be struggling mentally or emotionally?
I mean, obviously, there's not like every child is going to be different, but isolation, avoiding things, and some kids actually show that in a physical way, like they'll have these mysterious headaches or stomach aches, and we call that somatic symptoms, where the body kind of internalizes the stress to the point where we make ourselves ill because of the mental stress. So those are really big things. And then another one for school
So,
age.
as you're saying, stomach ache, and also, do you think that our diet is also a reason for the mental health?
I mean, that could be a whole show on its own. Yes, there's correlation between gut health and brain health, and what the child is eating, because sugar, we know, is not good. Certain fats like fried food, anything that makes our brain lazy. So the combination of nutrition and poor physical activity, that combination actually looks really bad for mental health. We're almost setting ourselves up to have an issue.
Sorry, continue. Out of curiosity, I asked it. Yeah.
But the second thing about the bullying, how you can kind of start picking up, is that there is a deterioration in self-esteem when there is a constant negative stimuli, and in an age where the child is all about peer acceptance. And sometimes those two worlds are apart. So parents are over here thinking, well,
sometimes kids just does the things, it happens. It's very natural. Sometimes kids do that. They start doing the things to impress others.
Yeah, that's very common.
That's very common, but it's not right. We should not encourage these things. Maybe sometime when we are sitting with a group, parent asks kids, can you show this to them?
That's not good.
So that's not good. I mean, they're not like okay, kids, sometimes parents are very happy, their kids knows this, they wants to show to their family, their friends, but it is not good for, I think, for kids' mental health.
Well, over time, if you see your child as kind of a, I don't know, I don't want to say property, but kind of an extension of your own value rather than an independent, unique human, then it could be problematic, because that child over time will have a very hard time coping with failure. And you need to fail to succeed.
Of course.
And sometimes in our cultures, there's absolutely no wiggle room there. You either are or you aren't. And that's why we are seeing a huge increase in suicide and mental illness in Middle Eastern, South Asian communities, and we're losing young kids as a result.
It's very unfortunate.
I think just 2 weeks ago, somebody else had a 19, very young person commit suicide. These things are because we start feeling that we let the most important people down, and there's no room for any other explanation of how we're feeling. So, and also if you don't have a good relationship with your own mental health, you discourage everyone around you to be authentic. So that's one of the reasons I'm very open about like the times in my life that I've had to step up my game with my own mental health. The times where I've had to get, counseling, where I've had to get counseling for my kids. And, because I think more people should be open about how it helps them navigate. Just because you go to counseling doesn't mean you're going to be there for years.
Yeah.
Just because you have a bout of depression and you get on some SSRI or some kind of a medication doesn't mean it's for the rest of your life. You're there to learn about new coping skills, new tools, and self-understanding, right? And the more you do that, the more the vibe of your family will fall into place. And nobody would feel like they're going through something alone. They would know, oh my gosh, well, when my mom did that, she called her, her friend or someone to refer her to go to a counselor. Yeah. She didn't just fall apart. She didn't take it out on us. She didn't become alcoholic. She didn't like abandon ship. So kids need to see parents and adults pick up the pieces when they themselves are struggling emotionally. And have integrity and be humble. I'm not saying go obviously say everything to your kid and make them your counselor, but teach them like, oh my gosh, like first, if our car breaks down and maybe we can, some of us know how to, I don't know, put the right oil or do we know our car to some degree, but after a while we need to take it to the mechanic.
Yeah.
Right?
It's heartbreaking, but we hear about bullying all the time in school or even online. What are the signs parents should look for both in kids who are being bullied and in those who might be bullying others?
So the signs, I think,
in the both context.
Yeah, we would look at baseline behavior. What did that kid look like before? Were they a sweet kid who never had any issues and suddenly they have these kind of microaggressions, maybe they're playing with their cousins and suddenly, I don't know, some little anger comes out, some release comes out. Or is there any like new habits? Is there increasing, I don't know, nail biting or excuses not to go to do things with mom and dad, avoidant behaviors. And then for the children who are doing the bullying, I think for them it's also, both things kind of stem from poor self-esteem. Again, observing for those contexts, do they suddenly have this, I don't know, entitlement that they have control over the actions of others? Is there some expression of the ego in a very inappropriate way? These things usually can be detected in the home. And then also looking at the marital dynamics. How are those mom and dads fighting with each other? Is there a like what I call a bully professor living in that house? Where
so sometimes it comes from home also.
That child has seen that, I don't know, talking, maybe actually you'd be surprised how many moms are the bullies in the home. They're, ordering the dad around. And so when you ask children about what does your house look like, a lot of interesting things come from that. And that's why those, the connection is important, observing your child, teaching and practicing what you're preaching, right? You cannot have a yelling match in,
So according to you, I mean, what you're trying to say is we should always watch our home first.
Yeah, absolutely.
As bullying professor maybe at your home.
They may be living, that's what is it? The apple doesn't fall.
Of course. Of course.
Or another thing to do is, I guess, just looking at, and this is a whole other topic too, when children are not able to meet those milestones, whether that's an emotional milestone, whether that's an educational milestone, they're going to have some kind of a behavior as a byproduct.
What that
So
mean?
that frustration,
Can you explain it?
it's that frustration of not being able to do something you should,
Oh.
right? And then oftentimes that gets expressed as a negative behavior and someone else falls victim. So what you'll find, and I don't quote me on this because I'm not updated on my numbers, but a lot of times bullies have extremely low reading scores. They are not able to do something in school.
What can be the reason behind it?
I mean,
this important topic has been brought to you by India House in collaboration with Hawk Foundation and Asian American Health Coalition. India House Houston is a vibrant, non-profit organization dedicated to uniting culture and enriching the greater Houston community. Through its diverse range of free programs and services, it addresses critical needs such as healthcare, legal aid, education and wellness. From food distribution and charity clinics to yoga classes and cultural activities, India House fosters inclusivity and provides a welcoming space for people of all backgrounds to connect, learn and thrive.
I don't want to even go through our education system, but
no, of course, but just in general terms, if we talk.
But you will get, so oftentimes you'll see a kid maybe who is not able to do something in school, and he sees maybe somebody else doing that thing that he can't do very well. And there is this need in all of us for validation. We all want to feel good about who we are, but we don't always have the emotional regulation to deal with these frustrations.
Understood.
So it's like the one part is that child may have never been taught how to emotionally regulate, and they're dealing with this very difficult thing. And that's a perfect storm for not so good things. And other people fall victim.
How can a parent teach emotional balance to the child?
They have to learn it themselves.
Children's?
No, parents. I meet a lot of adults who don't know how to emotionally regulate.
Yes.
So how can you teach something you don't know? That's why
So
counseling...
first, parents should learn about the emotional balance thing, and then they can teach to the kids. Okay.
And oftentimes when I meet a parent and they say, help me fix my child, oh my gosh, he's in trouble. I said, how about you and I meet first? Because you want to give the parent some tools. They need to be a few steps ahead of their children in knowing these concepts so they can also be supportive.
So Mahtab, what can be the good resource to learn emotional balance?
Counseling.
Only counseling? Other than that?
You know, these things, although the whole self-help market is, probably a multi-billion-dollar industry, it takes place with someone who is educated on it and well-versed. Just like I wouldn't go write my own contract. I get my lawyers.
Sometime if I talk about my community, people think if we are going to the counseling, so what will the neighbor think?
That's a problem.
That's a problem. I mean, even in today's society, it is really common. Everyone is going for the counseling if they need, and that's really good. We should go.
Yeah.
But I think only 20 to 30% people are going.
That's a shame.
Yeah. But I think rest of the people, they also are in a need. So what advice would you like to give them?
I mean, if you're not going to counseling and your problems are not going away, then in some way you're choosing helplessness. And I'll be totally transparent with you. Last Friday, I lost my father.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And so the first thing I did is I told my work people, like, I'm going to need an hour a week to start my grieving process, which when my grandparents passed away, I did 18 months because I lost both of them back to back. Now, it doesn't mean my grief is going to shut me down, right? I just made space for this very big event in my life.
Yeah.
Now, this week, maybe you could tell from my emails, I've been like not 100% of my brain, but it's helping me to go to work a little bit, to do life things. But I also know that I've got my sessions lined up. And whatever comes up, I have a place to put my emotions. And that's what I'm talking about, making space for some of these important things that happen to us in our lives that we just kind of ignore. And then we wait until we're literally like in a very dire need. I don't like to operate that way. I like to kind of be ahead of things a little bit. Because those are the things you can control. There's many things you can't control.
Of course.
But the things you can't control, like let's say, God forbid, a friend of yours was getting a divorce. Like they know, they're part of the family system. They know if their marriage is rocky. And then they have like 4 kids, right? I have these cases. They don't think to call me until it's gotten to the scary part where everybody's fighting, the lawyers are involved, You should be proactive and start teaching your children about the ideas of change, normalizing, making a space for yourself. So during a divorce process, you don't turn into a monster towards their father. So I think it's ironic because we will plan for our wedding, like from the time our daughters and sons are born. We're big on certain rituals, but these life transitions are also very important. And oftentimes, if you don't plan well, they affect multiple people's lives.
Of course, planning should be here and emotionally strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you are not emotionally strong, you cannot handle your family well.
Yeah, how do you teach something you don't know?
Of course. Yeah, that's totally. Let's talk about anxiety in kids.
Okay.
It feels like it's everywhere. And personally, I believe one of the biggest reason of anxiety is social media.
That seems to be a common theme. So anxiety for kids, this is one I believe is a combination as well. Social media makes us very isolated. Being around human beings, being around nature, these are natural ways of signaling our brain that things are good. Imagine being in a park, your mind goes to maybe sounds of the birds. Maybe you want to suddenly take off your shoes and feel the grass and you hear the ducks.
I love this.
Wouldn't you rather your mind go to these places than all the things that comes with anxiety? And you're in your room, you have not seen the sun all day, you have not had a human interaction. The same part of our brain that regulates our emotions also is geared towards connection. So that, when kids are little and you throw the ball back and forth and both the adult is having fun, you're teaching, gross motor skills and just eye contact, coordination, all these things. But what you're not noticing is that you're making a connection. Years later, that child will be like, oh, my uncle taught me how to play ball. And just by saying that sentence, they feel this surge of love and feel goodness.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think there's anything on social media that lasts, more than, 5, 10, whatever the algorithm is these days. I'm too old to figure that out. But I don't think we say anything about how that impressed us. It's just a dopamine hit. And the more we train our brain to love just a quick satisfaction followed by non-stimulation and that dip, we're going to train ourselves to be anxious. We're going to train ourselves to be depressed, always looking for something very awesome and hyped up, because dopamine actually trains us to look for, it's kind of the precursor to addiction, right? So then you're going to need that for years to come. The good news is that you can retrain your brain. You can unlearn something that's not healthy for you and then relearn a better version. Nothing. I think, what's the criteria? 1 hour in the morning. Certain age groups, they're not even allowed like any. I think a good friend of mine, Dr. Ali, this is her area of research.
Okay.
And so I'd love for you to kind of read some of her latest. But
I would love to.
Yeah, she talks about at certain cutoffs where no social media should be allowed, no iPhones, no iPads, nothing. And then even for school age, there's like a very limited. And
in schools are providing iPads to the kids.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah.
But we have to meet each other halfway. I understand that technology is something we can't ignore.
Yeah.
But also in Europe, places like Germany, Northern European countries, they actually offer schools that are completely taking place in nature.
Like, do you think today, do you think today's kids are facing more mental health challenges in compared to, say, when we were growing up?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we didn't use, this social media. When we were growing up,
where are the bikes? My worry was, my bike was functioning. I'd go. There's a little bit of, if you want to see children, you have to almost go, I don't know, to the children's museum or certain events.
Absolutely.
It's changed. Yeah. It's changed, and not for the better. Like, I remember my kids growing up.
That's very unfortunate, but that's the truth. That's a harsh reality.
And reading.
Yeah.
Where are the books? Where's the reading? Not these like 3-second videos. Like, we're being taught with these kind of dopamine-induced mechanisms. And then we want to be happy. And those things don't go. There's certain things naturally we need. The patience, something in both younger kids and adults and senior citizens, actually, the training of delayed gratification, that's directly correlated with depression and anxiety. I have maybe 3-4 times a year, I bring out on a table like a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. And that I use especially for Houston, my weatherproof days of connecting with my kids. We'll just put some tea on and like start tackling different parts of the puzzle, and that's our time together. And making sure those family rituals are integrated, because you cannot go to tell your kids put away the iPad for good, because we live in a world where everything
absolutely
the other day I was trying to something was not touch screen, and even I was like, what is happening? How come it's not working for me? So imagine a child that never knew a flip phone, never knew the dial ones. They're talking and things, or AI was not a thing in my younger days. So you have to adapt to change, but you also have to remember that this computer needs a break. Like, what happens to our laptop if we just keep it running?
Absolutely.
It's gonna overheat.
Yeah. Sometimes, kids have a big emotions, and it's hard for parents to know how to respond. What's the best way for the parents to deal with emotional outbursts without making things worse?
Assess for safety. Obviously, if the emotional outburst is involving something that's compromising your child's safety or those around him or her, you have to intervene. But in any other context, de-escalate and create accountability. Make sure that your child knows that is not the behavior you are going to reward, and that your emotional regulation is separate than theirs. And that's I think we're going to go back to that a lot. We have to be self-regulated to teach that to younger kids. Because they learn everything else by watching. Maybe they learn how we tie our shoes. They learn how we drive a car. Emotional regulation is a skill.
And it starts from very basic, from toddler to kids, to their teens, adults,
Exactly.
elders.
So give them the space they need. Don't make anger a bad thing. It's another emotion. Okay.
So
we
being
often
a parent,
yeah.
it's very natural. Sometimes if your child is doing something, so like if I say about myself, I've tried to be very calm. Okay, that's okay if you did it. That's okay. But in the back of my mind, when I was kid, when I done anything wrong, so my mom was, stop doing this. Okay, but now, on that time, the things like, okay, that's my mom. It's very normal if she's doing this. But in today's scenario, we cannot do this because we cannot, just scold the kids. We cannot talk them loudly also. I don't know what's the reason. Maybe extra resources we are reading, what we are doing. But still, kids are getting mental health issues.
Well, the
I
thing
mean, my
with
parents,
fear,
if I told my parents, they used to scold me a lot because I was very, very naughty. But in today's world, I mean, I talk about my kids, I never scold them. I always try to be calm, cool, and I'm talking about other parents also in today's world. They are also not doing this because they don't have time. Everyone is busy from morning to evening,
yeah.
right? Still, their kids are suffering from mental health issues. What's the reason? It's very
The parents, I think nowadays, one source is definitely they lead more stressful lives, so their threshold has changed.
yeah.
Another thing is that they, again, parenting does have unique skill sets.
Yeah. Because
And we-
parents don't have any book that they can read and they can be a
Yeah.
great parent. They learn from their mistakes,
Their own parents.
their own parents and their own experiences.
Yeah. So in order to get something different, you have to revisit yourself.
Yeah.
So we actually, if we can get enough people to sign up, because it's often hard to reach the masses, right? But if we're trying to put together a curriculum for parenting workshops, not just for new parents, but just, because a lot of parenting comes up during adolescence. Things get very tricky to navigate. So it's a skill set about how to de-escalate. It's skill set on how to separate your emotions from your kid's emotion. How do you respect their time to be alone? What do boundaries look like?
Yeah.
Right? How do you know when, as a parent, you need to hand off the power card to your spouse because you're no longer in control of yourself? Right? So these are all things to be aware of when you're trying to remedy a problem behavioral sequence in your child.
Yeah.
And then go to that child. What's not working? It's okay to be wrong.
Yeah, of course.
I'm a mom. Just like at my job, I make mistakes. Just like you can make a 97 and then make a 75 on another test. Can we learn from each other?
Of course.
How do we make sure things don't get this escalated? Right? Now that they've happened, how do you see us moving forward? How could I be supportive but respect your boundaries?
Yeah.
So not keeping our children in that child mindset. You mentioned your mom. A lot of moms are like that, where they were like, one gesture and you almost
Of
like peed your
course.
pants.
Yes.
The fear, we didn't teach.
Yeah.
We didn't teach. So we raised a bunch of like kind of dramatic parents to be with not enough tools in their box. And then we put them in a different cultural context.
Yeah.
And we said, good luck.
I know.
And then now we're expecting miracles.
Time has changed. Kids are getting very smart in these days.
Exactly.
In fact, Mahtab, word has changed drastically in in the last 5 years because of pandemic, especially.
Yes.
So, how did it affect mental health, and are their lasting impacts we need to be aware of? Because during the pandemic,
I think during COVID, children, one of the biggest indicators for children's health is, their social health.
exactly,
And we took
because
that away.
they had to stay at home.
Yeah.
If you have two kids, they can play together. But if you have only one child, then only parents are playing. Sometimes parents don't have time.
Yeah. And then add fear to it. So, but the good news is that children's brains are even more resilient than adult brains.
Of course.
As far as like the damage, I noticed certain parents were more proactive to the point where, you had to book appointments with the state parks because families were so much more involved in getting their children, than time with nature. We also became quite good at baking bread and making family time by default.
Yeah.
So children benefited from that a little bit. Some sibling relationships, because they were forced to just kind of, like you said, become each other's playmates.
Yeah.
So those were enhanced. But in general, that level of trauma is not, permanent. That's the good thing.
Yeah.
So as long as we have the recognition of what was missing and how we can make it up and set new boundaries, I think we should be okay. It did make a lot of children kind of awkward socially because they weren't practicing. So if you think about it, in war times, even in prison, the worst punishment is solitary confinement, isolation, cutting someone's social line of communication. And so COVID did a number on all of us on that.
Yeah.
Where people, even today, I'll go to events and I could tell someone does not get out of their house very much by the way they feel awkward in their own skin. They would rather like not be around people. You see it a lot in college age adults, that even the dating situation for them. And these are all kind of post-COVID long-term impacts.
There is one more thing I would like to include. Kids can also experience depression, just like adults.
Yes.
Yeah. But I feel like it's often overlooked.
Yeah.
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 What are the early signs? How can parents step in?
Read your child's baseline. Read who they are when they're in a good place and what's changed. Grades, activity, social avoidance.
Absolutely.
And sleep dysregulation. Those are kind of things to look for.
How important is mental health support for parents themselves? As you earlier already, I think, covered some part about it, that if you are not emotionally strong, then you cannot teach to your child about it.
Exactly.
But how it is important, how can a parent educate themselves?
So the healthy recommendation for therapy is every time that you're approaching a life transition or an event happens in your life that you're forced into a life transition, such as divorce, death, displacement, things like that. those are good times to go have a couple of sessions with a professional. Again, you're not stuck there for years. You just are making space for that event of your life so that event doesn't take over. And same thing with children. If you're going to be a young parent, have some sessions about what is your values on parenting? What is your husband's value? How do you guys view punishment? Compare notes. How were you parented? What are the pitfalls? What would you carry over? What would you not carry over? Right? These are conversations. It's not like you can't go, you can go to your mother-in-law and say, you were horrible. You slapped my husband. A lot of negative consequences will come of that. But if you can go and talk to a therapist, a professional, and you may leave that office laughing. And you just saved your relationship with your family. You got your release. And now you probably kind of have a different perspective. Because it's impossible not to have a different perspective. If you enter a conversation intentionally, you're absolutely honest. And that other person is giving you their feedback.
Yeah.
And you're not being judged. Imagine having conversations about all these important events in your life and someone doesn't judge you and gives you the time and space to sort yourself out.
Yeah.
Imagine what kind of a wife you are showing up. Imagine what kind of mother you are showing up after that practice.
As you saying about the judging, what do you think is the best way for parents to handle societal pressure or feelings of guilt if their child is facing mental health struggles, or if their child is going for the therapies? Sometimes because of the societal pressure, parents are like, okay, we should do that or not. And sometimes they're if they are in the social gathering, they don't feel comfortable to talk about their kids.
Because that's not the place, right? So we're going to go back to, if you suspect your child has an issue, get the help for you first.
Absolutely.
To get the tools you need, and then you'll have the answers.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes, we call this in family systems scapegoat. One person in the family will often get all the labels, but they're usually not the problem. It's usually a cultural thing. It's usually something that the family has not dealt with. And that child just seems to be the most sensitive, maybe.
Absolutely.
And so that's the thing. Like, one negative thing happens, and then now we're juggling.
Yeah.
So parents need to get, maybe all it takes is 1 or 2 sessions to really start labeling and understanding of what I call mapping.
Yeah.
You map out the problems in your family system that are unique to your family system. And therefore, you need unique solutions.
Yeah.
You don't just go, and I get this all the time, I need you to fix my 14-year-old. Oh, by the way, can you make him eat more apples? And can you make him respectful to his grandparents when they're visiting from whatever country? And I'm like, are you serious? How about we put your son's schedule 5 weeks from now and you and I meet before?
Yeah. All right. The last question, Mahtab.
Yeah.
What's the one message or action step you think all parents need to hear about kids' mental health right now?
Learn to be a listener and not a fixer. Not
Absolutely.
everything
That's
needs
very,
fixing.
very insightful answer. Yeah. We should be a good listener first. Yeah.
You have most of your answers if you learn to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much,
Of
Mahtab,
course.
for all the detail, all the insightful answers you have given. And what I can feel, that was my best podcast till now.
Oh, thank you.
You are an amazing speaker. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Mahtab.
Thank you for
joining us.
making the time.
And yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you. This important topic has been brought to you by India House in collaboration with Hawk Foundation and Asian American Health Coalition. India House Houston is a vibrant, non-profit organization dedicated to uniting culture and enriching the greater Houston community. Through its diverse range of free programs and services, it addresses critical needs such as healthcare, legal aid, education, and wellness. From food distribution and charity clinics to yoga classes and cultural activities, India House fosters inclusivity and provides a welcoming space for people of all backgrounds to connect, learn, and thrive.